Hello and welcome to another Red Game & Tech video with myself and Marta. Now you might be wondering why I'm not on camera. Well, it's because Paul has the good camera with him in America. He's currently en route there as we speak. So I am going to be hopefully resuming the on-camera sections in the next few days, but in the meantime you're going to have to put up with audio only, I'm afraid, my friends. But what do I have for you today? Well, I'm actually going to kick things off with some highlights from an interview between CNBC's Jim Cramer and the AMD CEO Dr. Lisa Su. So what do I actually want to touch on here? Well, as you might expect, they discussed numerous things, and there is going to be a link in the description below this video to the full video interview, so I suggest you give it a bash if you're looking to listen to Lisa's comments in full. Now, of course, AMD has been topic of much discussion because it has managed to get a pretty huge win against Intel with Ryzen, and of course its stock is doing really well, and it's just made a huge turnaround. Now, unsurprisingly, AMD and Lisa Su are very proud of everything they've achieved, and her first comment, which I will read out in full, does tie in rather nicely to everything that I want to discuss. So, she says, quote, "We decided to make the right investments. Technology is all about making the right choices, where we're going to invest and where we're not going to invest. 3 or 4 years ago, it was mobile phones, tablets, and IoT were the sexy things. We were like, hey, we know that those are good markets, but those are not AMD. We focused on what we thought the future would hold for us. We are making decisions now that you won't see the outcome of for the next 3 to 5 years. We're making some good decisions." And if I like nowhere can you see this the most, then of course their CPU architecture roadmap, which of course at present goes all the way down to Zen 5. Now, we have seen AMD absolutely crush it with Ryzen and of course Zen Plus as well, and they have definitely made the right investments, I would say, in how they have designed the CPUs and just how they have really brought a lot of power to the table for reasonable prices as well. And we've also seen this reflected in Epic. Now, they have been very aggressive with Ryzen, and we have seen the same aggressive technique also with Epic, where they have taken direct aim at Xeon at various airport ads, which we have discussed multiple times now. You know, for example, Epic is a multi-chip module as opposed to a monolithic die, and that's kind of what she means with the investment decisions and how they've gone about things. And of course, with Ryzen, you could argue is how they've done the CCXs and that sort of thing. So, of course, they have their graphics cards department as well, but I'll kind of get into that later. Now, the AMD have done very well for themselves, as I've already said, and while they have definitely brought a lot to the table, I think you can definitely also argue that they have taken advantage of Intel's woes, shall we say, because not only have we had the whole security thing with Spectre and Meltdown plaguing them, but we have seen them stuck on 14nm for what feels like 10 human lifetimes. We have seen 10nm delayed and delayed and delayed, and while AMD themselves point out that while they cannot rely on their competitors underperforming and make the point of pointing out that Intel are quote-unquote very strong, they have undoubtedly taken advantage of this situation because, well, why wouldn't you? But they are very, very aware that Intel are, while they might be kind of floundering or struggling a little bit in certain areas at the moment, they are still Intel, and they are most likely going to come back swinging when they are able to. And of course, with AMD, it's not just about the processor that goes in your PC, they're also pretty much dominating the semi-custom SoC market due to the fact that they are present in both the PS4 and the Xbox One as well. And of course, they made definitely a lot of money from the whole cryptocurrency thing. Now, speaking of consoles, I would argue this is the most interesting thing that they actually discussed in this interview. Of course, they are working with both Microsoft and Sony, and Lisa Su actually said that AMD is providing semi-custom chips and helping both companies develop their own quote-unquote secret sauce for their consoles. Now, unsurprisingly, out of the two companies, AMD is getting the most benefit out of working with Microsoft, given that, well, there's more to them than just consoles in terms of hardware. Their relationship also spans Windows and Azure, and AMD could in fact be working with them for future cloud computing projects, which of course would where Epic would come into play. And as as Lisa Su herself points out, quote, "Our strength is that we can work with all customers and we can differentiate for each one of them." Now, I'm very curious as to what she means by secret sauce. Now, obviously, assuming that Both Sony and Microsoft have gone with AMD for the next generation, and I would be very surprised if they don't. Now, of course, she's most likely referring to the next generation of consoles here, and of course AMD do know what each side is doing, and when it comes to Secret Sauce, of course, they're trying to work with each company to work with the other components in each machine, the specs that they're bringing to the table, the performance that they're expecting, heats and all that sort of stuff, excuse me, and of course the all-important thing, keeping the cost down to make sure that the console does not cost a human kidney to purchase. So that's probably what she's referring to there, and I'm very curious to see what is actually going on there. But unfortunately, she kept it rather vague, unsurprisingly. But speaking of Intel and the fact that they're not resting on their laurels, let's move on to our next topic, shall we? Now, of course, as we all know, Intel is debuting the first 9th generation desktop processors, the 9600K, the i7-9700K, and the 9900K. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, leaks, rumours and so on about all of these processors pretty much, and now we have some inklings as to the price tag for them all, as we have a catalogue by a major PC components distributor in Singapore getting an update. Now, this distributor is none other than Bizgram, and there is a link to a PDF in the description below this video. It is rather hard to read, the text is about the size of a gnat, so get your microscope out, but thanks to a Redditor by the name of Dylan522p, who helpfully did some conversions and subtracted all the taxes and did a bunch of calculations, we are looking at some prices here. So, of course, before I go into the actual prices, we should heavily note that these could be incorrect, they could be placeholders, they could be out of date, or they could be completely and utterly accurate. We just don't know. So, what do we actually have? Well, we have the 9600K at $249.99, the 9700K at $349.99, and the 9900K at $449.99. Now, if you ask me, these seem pretty much on the money for what Intel would actually price these, pre-tax and all that sort of stuff. So you are going to be adding tax on top of these, just to make it clear. So I'd not be surprised to see these pretty much be not exactly accurate, but around this rough sort of ballpark. This fits in pretty nicely with the pricing structure that Intel has gone in the past. So, unsurprisingly, the flagship is rather expensive, but, you know, that's Intel for you. It's hardly surprising that the best CPU is the most expensive by a long margin. So let me know what you think of these prices, guys. Do you think they're about right? Of course, taxes, all that sort of stuff, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that particular one. But we're going to finish things up with our final topic for today, which is actually regarding Turing. Now, before I get into this one, I just want to say this is a very short summary, basically. What we have here is a Turing architecture white paper, which has come out early. It should have launched in a couple of days on September the 14th. So this is a small segment of a rather large, I expect, document. Now, I would assume that Paul is going to be doing a full analysis. I can't speak for him, of course, so I believe he's still in the air. He might have landed, I'm genuinely not actually sure. Regardless, he's not available for me to ask right now whether or not he's going to be doing this when it actually fully reveals, but I'll be shocked if he doesn't, because this is the sort of stuff he loves to get his teeth into. So, while I'm not promising, you can reasonably expect an analysis of this within a couple of days of it being actually, well, released. But what do we have in our lovely, tasty preview, I hear you ask? Well, first thing we see is INT32 cores. So, this is a new execution unit. So, the INT32 or INT32 is a new execution unit and is going to enable Turing to do something rather interesting, and that is none other than execute floating point and non-floating point processes in parallel. And according to Intel, this could provide 36% additional throughput for floating point operations. And you might scratch your head and go, okay, what black magic is going on here? And apparently this is all thanks to a new unified architecture for shared L1 memory and texture caching. Nvidia is saying that alongside this and some changes made to a new streaming multiprocessor, we could see a, quote, 50% improvement in delivered performance per CUDA core. So that claim is rather bold, to say the least. Now we also see some various shading advancements, mesh shading, variable rate shading, blah 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 blah. Nothing terribly exciting there in all honesty. The next thing that is actually worth discussing, at least in my opinion, is Turing's memory compression. Now the architecture brings to the table a new lossless compression technique, and Nvidia are basically saying that their improvements to the Pascal algorithms have given a, quote, 50% increase in effective bandwidth on Turing compared to Pascal. Now, I would assume that in the full white paper we're going to get more details as to what this actually means in terms of what's actually going on here, the ins and outs of it, how this is going to tie into everything else, the performance output we can actually see bring into the real world, that sort of thing. Now, the next thing is actually regarding the RTX 2070. Now, it isn't going to be, as many have previously thought, based on a cut-down TU-104. Nvidia has, of course, confirmed that it is going to be a TU-106 GPU. Now, the 2070 is definitely something I want to learn more about. We have heard a ton about the 2080 and the 2080 Ti, of course, mostly from Nvidia at their Gamescom conference, where they finally revealed what exactly was going on with their new graphics architecture, which of course we now know is Turing. But previous to that, we didn't even know if it was going to be Turing or Volta or Ampere or something else entirely. So I definitely am curious to hear more about the 2070 and of course the TU-106 that goes inside it. But the TU-106 should be a mid-range chip, which would make perfect sense. So our final thing is actually some block diagrams. Now on screen you will see 3 block diagrams. We're going to be seeing one for the Turing 102, the Turing TU-104 and the Turing TU-106. So, as I said, this is a mere preview, a snippet, a teaser, a taster as it were, of what we're going to be seeing. I would expect nothing short of a metric ton of information to be coming out when the full white paper is actually revealed. As I said, I'm going to be letting Paul know about this. I'm not promising anything, but I would reasonably expect him to be doing something about this. Even if it's not a full analysis, I would expect a more deeper analysis of the not only this information, but the further information that we're undoubtedly going to be getting in the full white paper. So, that is me done for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.